In this presentation, let me take you to slums as I reflect on children's participation in my remote fieldwork, in which children help me navigate their spaces through online video calls. So, along with other research affected by the coronavirus pandemic, the premise of my work is to undertake remote fieldwork using digital communications. I am in Russia and I did my remote fieldwork in my home country, the Philippines. And there's no denying of the scale of methodological challenges in shifting one's research to using digital technologies. And I have to admit that the experience was rather disappointing initially, but at the very least, it has given me a reflection, which in turn led to a presentation now. So, while the studies on children's geographies have a wide collection of in situ methodologies in the literature, the challenge is how to transfer these strategies to a digital platform. We can see some challenges. First, we are still grappling with the standards of implementing an empirical study based on a digital platform. Second, the paradigmatic and ethical scope of this field is still at its infancy stage, which leads to uncertainties about the conduct of research on a virtual communication with human respondents, let alone children. Third, my target respondents are marginalized children who do not have access to digital devices, and it is a challenge to arrange such logistics from abroad. Finally, to resolve logistics is one thing, but to build rapport and communications connections with children participants in an online environment is another. So, to make sense of such research predicaments, I go back to Massey, and Massey offers a guiding perspective in which it is instructive to ask what kinds of multiplicities, patternings of uniqueness, and relations will be constructed with these new kinds of spatial configurations. So, picking up from these instructions, my work offers humble insights drawn from my remote fieldwork in the Philippines. And I narrate how children served as mediators of spaces as I remotely navigate their neighborhood through an online guided tour led by children. As part of my dissertation, my research is to gather qualitative data to understand how children in the Philippines negotiate their conduct of play in their slum spaces. And my research has drawn data from remote interaction with children 9 to 12 years old as they became not only my participants but my guide to explore the spaces of their neighborhood. A slum in San Jose del Monte City, Philippines. It's a mid-tier city in central Philippines. And I was able to reach the participants in their urban poor neighborhood through the assistance of a local faith-based group in the Philippines, which also provided the digital devices for participants to use. So brace yourselves for the child-led tour. So aside from technology as means to shape spatial experience, my remote fieldwork highlighted the role of children in augmenting the reality of the researcher, me. So with significant impact on my perception, cognition, and emotion concerning the field site. Through a video call, the children served as curators of their own spaces, leading me to understand how they connect to their slum neighborhood, their embodiment to such spaces, and their lived experiences. Both I and my participants had a consensus that it is their discretion about which venues to show. In this regard, children took the initiative where to go, what sites to display, which sound to hear, and basically what to experience next during the tour, bringing meaningful contributions and co-constructed knowledge to my research. Not only did the children show what a typical neighborhood is, they also led me to see their own spatial imaginaries as they wanted it to be seen. Moreover, my remote fieldwork gave perspective on how a child led digital tour has shaped our identities, my identity as a tourist and their identity as guide, and what we tell ourselves about it. We were able to grasp new spatial selves in the digital realm and create digital identities, albeit temporarily, to make sense of our digital connection. We acknowledge then that the potentials of pursuing remote fieldwork through technology as it has allowed us to transcend our physical boundaries. Also, the unfamiliarity of digital space and uncertainty of the pandemic situation became the leverage that enabled me and children to construct and reconstruct our relationship with each other as digital partners. Moreover, children also criticized my stubbornness in pursuing this research. They interrogated me on why I chose them as my participants. They demanded that I show my room to them, as it would only be fair since they showed their room to me or their spaces to me. And indeed, children not only served as mediators, they also act as the critiques of my own research. So, two things transpired from such observations. First, through digital geographies, children became primary arbiters of their own spatial realities, lending perspective towards their particular imagination, language, culture, and even the definition of slums. The digital world became a key site of children's agency, and the children were able to stretch, create, and recreate their offline spatiality, making them experience their own physical spaces across the digital realm in a way that they can dictate. And this resonates with the digital geographers who argue against the notion that the digital space is unreal, imaginary, or conceptual, in contrast to the tangible physical world. Indeed, in my remote fieldwork, the digital is not less real than the physical spaces because it is through the digital means that children were able to frame their material spatiality. It allowed them to navigate how they would want a researcher to see their spaces from their perspective. Second, children's interrogation of my research is a critique of hegemonic practices couched within doing geographical research. The criticisms and suggestions from children have put into perspective the quality of my research project, highlighted the neglected themes in my dissertation, solidified its contributions to knowledge, and questioned my standing as a scholar. So, digital geographies align with the upsurge of researchers from various disciplines who increasingly engage children in research and legitimize their contributions, not only in meeting research objectives, but also in providing valuable insights in the directions of research agenda. And these observations overlap with the broader theoretical impulse to question and diversify our sources of expertise to best understand spaces, children's spaces in particular, and value children's criticisms to improve geographical research. So instead of giving a solid conclusion, I end this reflection as a work in progress. Taking a digital turn to pursue studies on children's geographies has led my research to take an epistemic turn, making children lead my research, as well as to take methodological risks in terms of venturing on new ways to conduct research, as if I had a choice. So, if anything, what digital what a digital children's geographies has buttressed in my research is to go beyond asking how children's geographies can be investigated and instead consider how methodologies may be designed to, quote, Hunlet, to assess the ways in which children find methods useful and employ these methods towards their own means, end quote. So I gained insights how children view their physical spaces digitally, which was only possible if we decluster children from the mainstream understanding of them as only research subjects. Moreover, uncertainties can be useful in terms of unleashing the potential of children to take more part in research, spark interests, and lead to new questions. Finally, this reflection is not an attempt to romanticize slum dwelling children or bend the story of research deficiency into a consoling narrative, but rather just to highlight how children can reinforce geographical research using digital means. And just a quick acknowledgement, this presentation is for the children of San Jose del Monte City who have unwittingly unpacked and changed my views on digital children's geographies in many unexpected ways. And in that, thank you very much.